The snow that night didn't fall. It drifted, soft and quiet, as though the world was holding its breath. In a cramped, cold, single-room apartment on the forgotten edge of the city, a little girl named Tessa Hart pressed her tiny palms against the frosted window pane and watched each snowflake melt into nothing. She was only 5, but her eyes carried the kind of sadness that didn't belong to a child. Everything inside the room felt too small, too cold, too temporary. The walls were thin, the heater weak, and the rent overdue. Her mother, Lena Hart, sat hunched over the edge of their worn mattress, rubbing her forehead with trembling fingers, trying to hide the fear that had been eating through her for months. She worked every shift she could find, sometimes going without meals so her daughter wouldn't have to, yet life kept slipping away from her like sand through shaking hands. That night, while Lena forced herself to stay strong, Tessa quietly picked up a crayon barely big enough to hold and a torn sheet of paper. Curled in the dim yellow light of the apartment, she wrote in crooked, gentle letters, "Dear Santa, I only want a home for me and Mommy, one where she won't cry anymore." She folded it carefully, kissed it like a sacred secret, and placed it on the cold balcony rail, believing with all her heart that magic might still hear her. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small miracles, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. While Tessa slept peacefully with her stuffed bunny tucked under her arm, Lena lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling. She wondered how long she could keep pretending everything was fine. She feared eviction. She feared failing her daughter. She feared the harshness of a world that rarely offered mercy. Her eyes stung as she silently cried into her pillow, careful not to wake Tessa. She didn't know her. Daughter had already made a wish that might change everything. Outside, the winter wind lifted Tessa's tiny letter and carried it into the icy night. It drifted across empty streets, over sleeping houses, and into the grounds of a home so grand it looked like it belonged in a different universe. There, in a large but lonely mansion at the center of a quiet, gated estate, lived a man who had forgotten how to feel anything at all. His name was Ethan Hale, widowed, brilliant, wealthy, and utterly alone. He had built one of the most successful companies in the city, but no amount of success could hide the emptiness carved into him the night he lost his wife, Isabel, in an accident that still felt unreal. Ethan had once been warm, loving, full of life, but grief hardened him, tightening around his heart like an iron fist. He buried himself in work, shutting out memories that hurt too much to touch. And yet, on that freezing night, when he stepped out of his car and noticed a small paper caught against the gate, something inside him stirred. He picked it up, smoothing the edges with a gloved hand. The uneven handwriting, the misspelled words, the raw simplicity, it all hit him with startling force. A child wasn't asking for toys or treats. She was asking for a home, a place where her mother wouldn't cry. Ethan read it again and again, his throat tightening. He hadn't felt something pierce through his numbness like this in a very long time. Something about the letter felt like it was meant for him, like the universe was nudging him awake. Memories of Isabel, who had spent her life helping families in need, rose in his mind like warm sunlight fighting through clouds. Ethan knew then that he couldn't ignore the plea of this child. Before morning, he had used every resource available to find where the letter came from. And just as dawn began spreading pale light across the city, he had an address. Meanwhile, Lena was dressing Tessa for another cold day, her mind drowning in worries about overdue payments and unpredictable work shifts. She didn't notice her hands trembling as she buttoned Tessa's coat. Then came the knock, a deep, steady knock that echoed through the tiny room. Lena froze. No one visited them. The landlord usually banged aggressively, not like this. When she opened the door, the cold air rushed in, but so did a man she had never seen before. Ethan Hale stood under the falling snow in a dark coat, holding a simple gift box in one hand. His breath fogged in the icy air, and his eyes, tired, gentle, deeply human, met hers. He introduced himself softly and explained that he had found a letter asking for a home. Lena felt the world tilt beneath her. Her first instinct was fear. People didn't just show up at your door offering help, but Tessa peeked from behind her mother, her eyes wide, innocent, and hopeful. She shyly admitted the letter was hers. Ethan felt something shift inside him at the sight of the small child clutching her bunny, her cheeks red from the cold. Ethan didn't try to enter. He didn't overwhelm them with questions. He simply asked if they would feel comfortable going somewhere warm to talk. Something about the steadiness in his voice softened Lena's resistance. She grabbed her worn purse, bundled Tessa up, and stepped outside. Ethan drove them to a small bakery where the warmth of fresh bread and cinnamon felt like a hug. He bought Tessa hot chocolate topped with extra marshmallows and offered Lena a tea that thawed her frozen hands. He listened, truly listened, as Lena explained her struggles, the unstable jobs, the rising rent, the exhaustion of trying to stay stronger than her breaking point. Every word cracked Ethan's heart open a little more. He saw not weakness, but strength, not pity, but resilience. He recognized a kind of pain he once knew, the pain of losing everything except the will to keep going. When Ethan saw their cramped apartment, when he saw the fear behind Lena's courage and the quiet hope in Tessa's small smile, he knew he had to do something. He helped them move into a warm, safe apartment the very next day, one he covered without expecting anything in return. He helped Lena find a stable job within a network he trusted, something well-paying but humane. Slowly, the constant fear in Lena's eyes faded. She began to breathe again, to sleep better, to hope again, and Ethan, without meaning to, found himself spending more time with them. Not because he felt obligated, but because being around them thawed something inside him he didn't realize was still frozen. Tessa adored him. She ran to him with drawings, tugged his hand when she wanted to show him something, and made him laugh in a way he hadn't laughed in years. Lena watched with quiet gratitude, her heart warming at how gently Ethan treated her daughter, how respectfully he spoke to her, how naturally he fit into the little spaces of their lives. Before we reach the ending, if this story has touched your heart so far, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support truly keeps these stories alive. Months passed, each one weaving the three of them closer together. Ethan found himself healing in their presence, rediscovering simple joys like cooking dinner together, walking through parks, helping Tessa with small crafts, and listening to Lena laugh softly at his awkward attempts to tell jokes. Lena, too, found her fears melting away. She saw in Ethan a man broken but rebuilding, wounded but kind, lonely but capable of immense love. She admired how he never treated her like charity, how he respected her independence, how he supported her without taking over her life. And Tessa, sweet, innocent Tessa, saw him as the quiet hero she wished for without ever putting it into words. A year after the letter first found him, Ethan stood outside their new home on Christmas Eve, snow falling around him. In his pocket was a small velvet box, but it wasn't about jewelry. Inside was a tiny silver key, a symbol of a home he hoped they would share one day, not because he pitied them, but because they had become the missing pieces of his life. When Lena opened the door and saw him standing there, her breath caught. Something unspoken passed between them, something warm and gentle. Tessa squealed with joy, running into his arms, and in that moment, Ethan realized that the wish written by a little girl had not only given them a home, it had given him one too. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and leave a comment. Your support truly matters. Comment Tessa's wish if you felt the emotion of this story.